You see it in every amateur gym. A fighter throws a wild combination, loses their balance, and stumbles forward trying to dodge the counter. Contrast that with a master technician navigating the pocket. They barely seem to move, yet they slip every punch with zero wasted effort. Look at Guillermo Rigondeaux. He doesn't rely on raw speed to survive. He controls the fight using precise geometry and micro-positioning. Flawless defense is rarely about fast-twitch dodging. It is a product of preemptive positioning and highly efficient biomechanics. This system relies on 5 overlapping lines of defense: footwork, parries, slips, rolls, and blocks. Before you ever move your head or raise your hands to parry, the entire architecture of evasion has to be built from the floor up. This diagram illustrates the kinetic chain of a boxer in a proper stance. Notice how the energy travels from the floor, up the lead leg, and into the hips and shoulders. Kinematic data shows that peak evasive speed and counterpunch velocity originate almost entirely from the lead leg force-to-body mass ratio. If a fighter's base is compromised at the floor, all upper body defense structurally fails. They are left entirely vulnerable to the counterattack. To maintain that structural base, you use the step drag. This is the foundational mechanism for moving into and out of range without ever surrendering your stance width. In this geometric view, a dot represents the center of gravity, perfectly centered between the feet during a step drag. Watch what happens when feet cross. The center of gravity shifts outside the base footprint, destroying your stance width and ability to absorb force. Once you establish linear control, you transition to angular defense. The pivot steps off the center line while maintaining offensive readiness. The lead foot locks as a fulcrum, drawing a precise 45-degree arc. A common amateur error is over-pivoting past 90 degrees. As the arc over-rotates, your line of sight sweeps completely away from the opponent. You cannot defend against a target you can no longer see. Another critical error happens at the joint level. Letting the lead knee cave inward during the rotation leaks kinetic energy and risks serious meniscus strain. Vasiliy Lomachenko utilizes these exact tight angles. He uses preemptive positional shifts to constantly trap opponents in defensive cycles. Mastering these specific footwork mechanics creates a mobile fortress. It allows you to stay deep inside the pocket without ever surrendering structural balance. Moving up the kinetic chain, we reach head movement. The goal here is not to run away from the punch, but to stay as close to it as possible. This animation demonstrates the law of millimeter efficiency. By making the opponent miss by a hyper-efficient 2-inch gap, the defender conserves energy. As the measurement vector expands to 12 inches, the boxer's spine tilts dangerously out of alignment, completely breaking their balance. The strict mechanics of the slip require only slightly shifting your weight and dropping your shoulder to the outside of an incoming straight punch. For lateral attacks, you use the roll. This systematic U-shape evasion allows you to duck underneath incoming hooks. The critical structural rule of the roll is that you must bend at the knees to change levels. You never bend at the waist. Many fighters ask why they keep getting caught by a left hook when they try to slip inside a combination. The structural failure is simple. Slipping inside the center line inherently keeps your head trapped in the horizontal strike zone if your knees aren't simultaneously bent. The biomechanical fix is to combine that inside slip with a tight pull backward. This pulls your head back just enough to clear the trajectory of the hook. Millimeter-efficient head movement turns the opponent's aggression into a structural vulnerability, positioning you perfectly to launch an immediate counter. When evasion through footwork or head movement isn't possible, you rely on the final, most intimate lines of defense: parrying and blocking. Parrying is a high-level energy conservation tool. Watch how the rear glove uses a micro-movement to subtly slap the incoming jab downward, altering its trajectory. This slight vector redirection forces the opponent to absorb their own missed momentum. It exhausts their lead arm and shoulders while keeping your legs completely fresh. Blocking is not a passive bunker to hide behind. It is a dynamic, temporary shield. Proper blocking mechanics require staying completely relaxed until the exact millisecond of impact. You crouch the upper body and tuck your elbows tightly against your ribs. These body heat maps illustrate the cost of physiological tension. The bright red model represents the high energy drain of a tense, static high guard, while the cool model represents a relaxed, dynamic guard. You must take the impact on the hardest part of the skull, or the forearms, and fiercely protect your line of sight. If you can't see the next punch, you can't prepare for it. Relying on a static block guarantees muscular fatigue. Dynamic parries and blocks preserve the vital stamina required for your counterattack. True mastery of this defensive matrix is achieved when defense and offense become the exact same movement. The check hook is the perfect synthesis of footwork, head movement, and counter-striking. The sequence triggers precisely when an aggressive opponent lunges forward, fully committing to a powerful straight right hand. The integrated mechanical response happens in a split second. You plant your lead foot, execute a sharp pivot to the outside, and slip the straight right simultaneously. From this newly created blind angle, the opponent cannot defend. You fire the lead hook over the top as the offensive payload. Combat sports biomechanics refers to this transfer of energy as effective mass, determining exactly how efficiently a fighter integrates their body weight into a strike. Look at these collision vectors. The check hook weaponizes the opponent's forward momentum. Their massive forward arrow collides directly into the tight circular rotation of your hook, exploding at the exact point of impact. Floyd Mayweather utilized these exact principles throughout his career to neutralize relentless aggression and punish mistakes. Stop relying on raw reflexes. Drill the step drag, record your pivots, and master the millimeters. When the mechanics are flawless, the knockouts will engineer themselves.